This is one of the first images of the $100 million ship underwater, leaking some oil.
Breaking! Navy ship commander panics at thought of handling large hard object full of semen.
Manawanui crashed into a reef. By a little octopus, a friend of Dorothy. New Zealand's Navy is so lame, so spastic, lame and gay. Manawanui crashed into a reef.
Breaking! New Zealander crew stunned just minutes before sinking as lesbian captain announces all hands on dick.
Manawanui, 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 Manawanui.
Human error led to the catastrophic grounding and sinking of the HMNZS Manawanui in Samoa last month, according to the Court of Inquiry into the maritime disaster. It found that there was a series of human errors. The ship's autopilot was not disengaged when it should have been. The crew mistakenly thought the issue was thruster control failure, and the standard procedure to check the ship was under manual control did not occur. The court says a disciplinary process will commence. Hours after hitting the reef, listing and then on fire, the ship sank.
The alarm sounding an emergency. The HMNZS Manawanui in crisis.
Whoa. Can you believe this monumental up? The Navy have sheepishly admitted that human error was to blame.
It was human error.
It's one of those days where anything does go wrong.
Well, obviously, this has had an impact to our reputation.
Yeah, it was extremely disappointing.
The crew tried to stop the ship, but they failed to switch off autopilot. It hurtled towards the reef, grounding at a speed of more than 10 knots.
The ship then travelled around 400 yards before becoming stranded, grounding multiple times along the way.
It was only when autopilot was finally disabled that crew got back control, but by then it was too late. Other problems have been found as well.
Training, planning, supervision, readiness and risk assessment. We will own it, fix it and learn from it.
So after all the fanfare they gave her when she was recruited, the big media attention, bragging about yet another female they've got in the upper ranks of the Navy, her telling the world that she's an expert in getting ships to peak efficiency, they're now telling us that the crew were low in training and had issues in planning, supervision, readiness and risk assessment. The Navy website highlights that they are a force of highly trained professionals. So highly trained that they didn't even think to check if the autopilot was still on. My guess is that she and others on that boat have been promoted way beyond their abilities. The DEI hiring practices of the New Zealand Defence Force must be questioned. Their diversity policies and this LGBTIQ+ inclusion plan must be scrutinised. The people have a right to answers given the money that's been thrown down the drain here. It seems as though they consider being gay, female or non-white as a key factor in recruitment, coming above actual competence.
The ship was in autopilot and the crew failed to disengage it. This incident happened on Saturday, October 5, while the ship was surveying reefs off the coast of Samoa. The crew tried to turn the ship but were confused when it didn't respond and they couldn't regain control. The ship was evacuated about 6:30 p.m. Saturday.
New Zealand's Defence Minister defended her, stressing that her gender was not to blame for the disaster. Gray, originally from Harrogate, Yorkshire, previously served in the Royal Navy before moving to New Zealand with her wife. Gray expressed that losing the ship was her very worst imagining as a captain.
Judith Collins, Minister of Defence, among other things, saying at the time, "I am New Zealand's first female Defence Minister. The Army has its first female Chief of Army. Manawanui's Captain, Commander Yvonne Gray, is female. We are all appointed on merit, not gender. A court of inquiry has been stood up to establish what caused this terrible incident. The one thing that we already know did not cause it is the gender of the ship's captain." I agree, it's not the gender of the captain that caused the ship to sink. It's incompetence. This is not about gender. This is about incompetence, and somebody needs to ask questions about A, the Navy's training program, and B, the Navy's hiring policies.